So if we have these organizations, right, where you have diffused accountability, there's a whole bunch of people that hide in these organizations.
Oh,
Right?
yes. Yeah.
And one of the best things to hide behind is technology. I mean, you can get dogmatic about process and do it, and you have to have your TRP report with the facts cover sheet and all that, right? But the technology one, my systems can't do it, or there's no way that we can get that report or that data because our technology systems doesn't. That's not. I mean, that's not real, right? I mean, the stuff that we're doing right now, there's no new magic, right? Even in the AI world, we're asking the same questions that we've always asked. How do we get more business, right? How do I get more profit? How do I become more efficient? The same questions, right? People used to do this on paper all the time. So the only thing that the technology does, if it's designed correctly, is make this stuff happen faster and make it so we can do it with less people.
Hello, my name is Heath Gascoigne, and I am the host of the Business Transformation Podcast. And this is the show for business transformators who are part business strategists, part business designers, part collaborators, and part negotiators. Business transformators have moved past just business design and includes oversight of implementation of those business designs and business transformations, and includes stakeholder management, coordination, and negotiation. If you work in strategy development and implementation and work to ensure that the strategy is aligned to the business design and technology, then you're probably a business transformator. This is the show where we speak to industry experts and professionals to share their stories, strategies, and insights to help you start, turn around, and grow your business transformation. Welcome to the Business Transformation Podcast. And in this episode, we are talking to one of those industry experts. We are talking to none other than Jim Hart, solution architect. Now, full disclosure, Jim and I haven't met before. We connected on LinkedIn. Jim is going to be almost the sole representation of all stakeholders that have been on the program on the podcast so far, representing technology. So no small ask for Jim. So Jim comes from a background of as a solution architect, is now filling in a role, and we'll get into it shortly, of a organization healer. Jim brings over 25 years of technology, product development, and business experience to deliver measurable results through oversight and implementation of systems, process, technology, and discipline. He has the technical expertise to deliver an on-hands approach and the management and directorial experience to lead cross-functional teams to succeed. Jim's experience as a project leader, involves demonstrated skills in organization development, project management, training, coaching, and mentoring. Technically, he brings experiences in mobile technology, product development, software as a service, SaaS, technical business analysis, and business process assessment. Jim has filled many roles that stretch back to the start of this century and prior to the end of the century, as current CEO of J.R. Hart & Co., where he has been in this role for 9 years. Prior to that, for a 12-year stint at Singer Lewick LLP as a senior business transformation consultant, practice manager, director of operations. Also co-founded a product and R&D custom apps business, and director of business development and solution architect at Sierra. And the list goes on. Jim, welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you on the show.
Pleasure to be here, Heath.
Excellent. Okay, so we had a quick little discussion offline before we got started. Now, you have just so for the readers' perspective, for listeners, the audience, we're going to keep from your vast background to three points we're going to cover. You've done the transition from a solution architect to now what you call a organization healer. We're going to talk through that. And second, the process that you follow. We had a little brief discussion about how businesses are currently operating, or the way that they train and employ and hire, and what the advantages of that are, but also it's created something else. And then third, industry. What is happening in the industry right now at the moment that you see that is either helping or hindering business transformation, or even organizations themselves, which is probably going to tie in with your organization healer, that you do something with that organization to help them in some way. Okay, so take us on that journey as enterprise. You are a solution architect, and now you are moved into this other role.
Yeah, so they certainly aren't mutually exclusive. I kind of, for the bulk of my career, I focused on solving problems with solutions, with technology, process, right?
Yep.
And what I've discovered most recently, and it came to me really through some personal things, is that people move best when they can incorporate their why.
Yes.
Right. So what I find, of course, is that there's tons of things in an organization that is prohibitive of them finding their why, either personally or organizationally, right? The style of communication from executive down through the organization.
Yep.
In most organizations, right? And especially organizations that will hire someone to help them transform their business is dysfunctional. And so as I kind of was going through really a requirements gathering for a product that was in process and should have already had all the requirements documented, is that there's no prioritization, there's no why or purpose driving the things that organizations do. So that's sort of where I started realizing, like, the solution's fine. You can tell somebody how to do something and how to solve a problem, but if you don't change how the organization views the priorities of those things and bring this idea that culture doesn't come, and I'm quoting this from Stephen Jenkinson, but culture doesn't come from our capabilities. Culture comes from our limitations.
Culture doesn't come from our capabilities. It comes from our limitations.
That's right. And that's what has to be imposed, I think, in organizations in order for them to not be dysfunctional, is to realize their limitations, right? To think about things up front, right? So a lot of times if an organization calls and says, we need a new ERP system, we need new technology, the technology is hindering us, right? I think the first thing you and I realize is that the technology isn't hindering you, right? You put it in, right? You configured it, customized it, did whatever you did to it.
Yep.
And now you're at a place where you're at a block. And the block isn't really the technology. The block is your organization, right?
Yes.
And how you consume information. So going back to that, right? When we walk in and we see that, the first instinct is to start looking for new technology. And that's where we really have to start ask the organization, what is it you're trying to do? And why? Why are you trying to do it? What's not working right now, right? And this sort of gets into the process thing of getting people to address what their limitations are. What is a budget that's realistic for this, right? And people they'll often say, well, we don't have a budget because we don't know what it will cost. Totally inappropriate, right? The budget should come from, you're making this much money, here's your profit margin, here's where you have room, here's what you think your efficiency gain will be. This should be your budget, and you shouldn't spend any more. And if you do, you better have justification on the backside of why that's going to make more money at the end, right? For shareholders, for the organization, all of that. So those kinds of questions really are about healing the organization. They're not about solving the problem that the organization thinks it has.
So it's the default modus operandi, which I'd call in another project or another call, is to always look at the problem, but actually the symptom. They think it's the problem, and they go, okay, let's solve that problem. So whoa. You need to step back a bit and ask what you said. What are you trying to do? Why are you trying to do it? And then the third one is about the limitations. What are your limitations? And they say, I don't have a budget. And so that's a good way. So, well, wait a minute, break it down. You do this much revenue, this much profit. If you were to replace that system on X amount of cost, that potentially is what your budget is.
Right. Yeah. And then again, we come back to, and we discussed this a little bit before, is one of the largest problems in today's business world, right, is that money's free, right? This idea that interest rates are at 0% or have been, right? Yep. What organizations will do is they just buy capability, they buy capacity, they capitalize it, right?
Yep.
And they basically they're basically shirking profits from the shareholders, right? If we look at their return on invested capital, every time they go out and they spend more to buy capacity or capability, the shareholders lose. So, but they don't lose immediately, right? Because it's capitalized, because it's amortized over so much time that they don't see it, because lots of people aren't looking at it like. So that's one of the problems. And then we also discussed the way that through current hiring practices, current lack, right? So we have these innovators that come up with an idea and they start a business and they go get cash, right? But they don't know how to manage a business. They've never been trained what management looks like, and they've never stopped to think about the philosophy of management, of what management's job is, right? Which is to solve problems. So they build these organizations of diffused accountability. They hire expertise at the lower levels, right? And they follow this pattern, and you'll hear it taught in business classes that you should push accountability as low in the organization as you can. But I don't think that's right. I think the right way to approach it is to push responsibility as low as you can. But accountability has to be a human. It has to be a single person, right? Ahead of the department. And then at that level, right, that puts the responsibility of the manager, director to solve problems, right? People in the organization raise problems up, and it's that accountable person's responsibility to solve those problems. That's why they're there. Otherwise, why have management?
So listeners there, just pause here for a minute, Jim, just so listeners so they can pick that one up, is that there's a good point there about accountability on one person. What you see in a lot of organizations is that they have accountability or decision making by committee, and then so who's responsible? Well, it was that group, and then well, whose head's on the line if the shit hits the fan? Who's on the chopping block? No one. Well, I tell you how well this is going to go. Shit, because no one's going to lose their job for it.
Yeah, it's everyone's responsible and no one's accountable.
Right.
Projects go along, right? And you see these meetings, right? We've been in these meetings where someone walks in and goes, "Oh yeah, we're going to be late on that," and everybody just goes, "Oh, okay." Right. But again, right? We're back to the idea that there's no limitations, right? That somehow this is all going to work out, and it just drains the organization, right? Project after project after project. It's just an expectation now that all projects will be underestimated and they'll just be delivered late, and it's okay, right? But if people got fired when the project didn't come in, if they had accountability monetarily or career-wise, this would change, right?
I bang on a bit about the 70%, depending on whose stats you look at. If you look at Gartner, will say 70 something. If you look at McKinsey, will say something else. But they're above and below 70% of these transformation projects fail. And to that point, they fail because no one's held accountable. And they go, "Oh, we'll just start. We'll give it a 4-month cool down period, and we'll kick it off again." So, but you missed the opportunity. You wasted the budget, and in terms of equity and your investors and stakeholders, like, well, their return on investment, you're going to raise some more money. It gets diluted, and don't worry about that. We're doing it again. It's going to be okay. Like, what? It's crazy.
I can't tell you. And look, as a consultant, we can only do so much, right? We coach and we mentor the executives. We help them understand what's going to happen, why change is so difficult in an organization, what their responsibility is for communication, right? But honestly, as a consultant, we go so far. I mean, our process is sort of build this front end, right? This is what it's going to look like. Here's the deal. We're not going to do an RFP because they're dumb. They're stupid, right? They're just ways for somebody to bill you by the hour. What we're going to do is we're going to describe your organization. We're going to talk about the problems in the organization for vendors to look at. We're going to expose the risks to this project for you and the vendor. And we're going to build a matrix that says, hey, here's what at risk you need to address on your side, right?
Yep.
But at the end, when I don't want to use that term where the rubber meets the road, but I don't know anything else to say right now. Like when the actual execution of the project happens, a lot of our executives, even with all of our coaching and mentoring, because they don't have an organization that enforces accountability, they freak out and they come up with excuses of why the project can't start. They delay the start of the project. They push, right? They come up with unreasonable demands of the vendor, right? After the contract's been signed. And we see this, and it's because their own internal organization doesn't have an accountability structure that says you either get this done or you're out of job. This is what your job is.
Yep.
So we see it all of the time. It's crazy.
Okay. So now, Go
ahead.
Yeah. So if this is the problem, it's like when you talked, earlier you said when organizations will see a problem and that the symptom is technology is a problem and go, let's go. So now we know the problem is no accountability. How do we get accountability?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of things going on that are in the way of building good organizations and accountability. So I think on a philosophical level, it is about education. It's about training executives to understand their role in the organization and building accountability into the organizational structure. So, it would look something like a young CEO. And when I say young, I don't mean age, but I mean with company, right? Starting
early
a company, focusing on what's going to happen when they're successful.
Okay.
So what we'll see a lot of times is that innovative people are focused on external sales, right? And
metrics, market,
where it comes, like everything outside of the organization, right?
Yep.
They will hire like-minded people because they want to build, right?
Yep.
But I think that one of the key factors for a young company is bringing in someone who has solid operational expertise, who's asking the question, what happens if this works? Right? I mean, we've seen pets.com was such a great example, right? We've seen so many companies that were on the verge of having something absolutely brilliant, right? And it could have changed the world. And when they get there, they can't operate. I had an experience. I worked at an online advertising company, and we built a statistical regression engine that could predict someone's propensity to click on an ad, on a display ad, right?
Yeah.
And we used an off-the-shelf $10,000 piece of software, and we implemented this thing and sort of built some business rules around it, and it had the capability of predicting someone's propensity to click with a 98% confidence.
Jeez.
Now,
printing
the actual probability of them clicking was only 1,000%. So 98% of the time, we knew that 1,000% of the time, someone would click on the ad, which doesn't seem like a lot, right? But on 1 billion ad impressions per day, it's a lot. So we launched this thing in the middle of the night, and we were looking for clicks, right? That's what we were looking for. And this engine worked so well that I think I can talk about this company now because I don't think they exist anymore. We had a campaign running for Vonage, a phone company, and they were one of the first VoIP phone companies.
All right. Yep.
And we had been running the campaign for 3 or 4 months, and it had a certain amount of clicks that it would deliver every month, and that's what they were buying.
Okay. Yep.
When we launched this thing, it delivered all of those clicks in 6 seconds. All of the clicks for an entire month, it delivered in 6 seconds.
Yeah.
It crashed all their landing page servers, right? We had to do a make good, right? Thinking up front about what could go wrong, what could go right, right? And how that works. The biggest problem that we ended up having is that the executives in charge never thought about how to sell this product. Like how do we change their sales model? They ended up abandoning it after I left the organization. They ended up abandoning this beautiful product. It was the first predictive click gathering engine out there on the planet. This was in 2005 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. And they ended up abandoning it because they never thought, what if it works?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? How do we need to change our organization, right? This is what young organizations need to do. And I think having that philosophy from the top will build layers of accountability into the organization because everybody understands the why of what they're doing, right? They're not hyper focused on the what and the how, but backing up to the why. Why are we doing this? What's the benefit? Who gets to win when this goes right?
Okay, the why is a big one, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's on the last project, last client that they had a lot of work done what they called OKRs. And I get asked a lot between those two OKRs and I use one VISOM that breaks vision to strategies, objectives, and measures. And they say, oh, we've got the vision. I said, the vision actually is the why. That's the why. That's the big why. Why are you doing this? What's in it for you? Then your business has got the WIIFM. What's in it for me? Everyone's looking at this why to see where they can see their self in it. If you don't have that, and they say, oh, we got the OKRs. So OKRs is your outcomes you want to achieve, and the KR part is the key results, being the metric you can measure it. But why?
Why?
Yeah. And they keep going around on the OKRs. We're refreshing them. I said, you are missing the point, though. You do know that. Yeah. There is no why.
Yeah. It's putting the horse or the cart before the horse.
Yeah, the cart. Yeah, beauty. Cart before the horse. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, they I think they're going to learn the hard way on that one. So okay, yeah. So the definitely the why first, not the what and not the how, which almost be almost a paradigm shift for innovative and young companies to go, okay, new tech, this is the how, why we're doing it, or the what we're doing it for, because we got the capability, we just brought it, we got money for free, money's free right now, and they go, but why? Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's one part. You said there was the philosophy part, the education training, and so you get the executives in the organization, you're building that capability in the org structure. We're doing the not the decision by committee or decision by committee. It's one person accountable, so that's built in. Then the other part you talked about there was the thinking up front. The thinking up front about if it goes well, do we have the ability to support it?
Yeah.
No one's thinking about that. Yeah. Okay.
So, you said decision by committee, holding one person accountable. I think that's right. And I don't want to discount the value proposition of committee, right?
Yes.
But what we're losing is that what should happen in committee is debate, right?
Yeah.
That's what really should happen in committee is debate. Yeah. There should be disagreement in the organization about how and what, right? Everyone should agree on the why or they shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
But on the how and the what, and again, there's lots of times where in these young organizations, right, you think about, I went to a product management, conference one time, and most of it was just the same nonsense that you see at all the conferences. But this one keynote speaker, and I wish I could remember his name, he stood up and it was right about the time that the iPod mini came out, and he held up the iPod mini, right?
Yep.
He goes, do you think that Steve Jobs or anybody at Apple asked any consumer how to improve on an MP3 player in order to come up with this? Or how to improve on the music industry? And the answer was no, right? The answer is no. There's no way that the consumer could have fathom that, right? I mean, for them, it was how do we make our CD players smaller?
Yeah.
Not how do we put 1,000 songs in my pocket?
Yeah.
Right. So there is benefit, and we have to leave room for the brilliant hows and whats, right? And we can find a why afterwards. But what we'll find a lot of times in innovative companies is they abandon or expand their why to fit the latest how or what. Right.
Yep.
So at some point, you say, okay, I'm going to put 1,000 songs in my pocket. Why are we doing this? Who do we sell this to? Who benefits from it? Right. Yeah. And then stop. And I think there's a thing to be said about inside of organizations. It is almost impossible to have disruptive innovation when you have a solid cash flow product.
Yep.
Right? So you think about what happened with the iPod, right? And it just sort of got smaller and bigger, bigger capacity, smaller size, right? And there was, from Apple, there wasn't really any big disruption after that. I mean, the iPhone was sort of a separate product, right? It sort of consumed that product. But you have to realize that disruptive innovation is cannibalistic to an existing cash flow product. So all of that back to saying, like, once you discover that why, like, you got to stick with it, or you got to figure out how to change it at some point, and you start with that.
The start and the end of the why is the why.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. The why is massive. But so your point there around that companies can start with the what and the how, and to work, and then say, okay, this is the why. And then refresh, update. And for really truly disruptive innovation is when they have this a big why, but also the how is the product works, it does what it needs to do, but there's cash flow behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Okay, now we talked about, well, that was on the building accountability. Now, what about we're going to go between the three points there. In terms of the industry, like in terms of consultants, who there's probably particular companies that call in consultants, and those companies are in a certain state of health, if you like, and probably some history that they have with consultants, so they're familiar with what they think they can get from consultants. But that also encourages, I don't know what you call it, maybe a crutch, that they have now don't want to make certain decisions themselves, or in some cases, what the senior executives will do, they don't want to make a decision. They'll bring in some consultants to make the decision, or say it's their decision, which really they just didn't want to say it themselves, and blame the consultants. So what's the industry doing well? Is it helping with the companies? Companies trying to transform? Are they creating a void?
It's kind of a mess, honestly. So I think there's a few things, right? So I'm going to say that the billable hour model, right?
Yep. The billable hour model, yeah,
is super detrimental to organizations being efficient. And I mean our clients, right? So if we're billing for effort, whether it's through some level of censure that grants us that capability, or if it's just because that's how we've always done it, right? This idea that somehow someone would pay for effort or activity, yes, instead of results is inappropriate, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. That one, it is almost like when I go into projects and I see, look, they're not managing risks very well, and I go, the reasons why there seems to be, either you're going to have either no risk meeting at the start of the program, and then people get this impression that I've now dumped 200 risks in the RAID log, and Jesus Christ, I hope I never have another meeting like that and get my 2 hours back in my life that I've now lost. And that now that I have logged it, I've recorded it as now managed. No, you've just dumped them in a RAID log with someone else's name on it who probably doesn't even know about it. And then, hello, 2 months later, boom, that rate is now an issue because the risk is an issue because no one wanted to manage it. To go, if these consultants were manage their risks better and they didn't have, the time and the delays didn't happen, and you're rewarded on outcome as opposed to process or activity, some of these projects might actually be successful.
Yeah, I think that there's a whole bunch of projects where the consultancy themselves become the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have every incentive to do so.
Yeah.
Right? So again, unless you tie a successful outcome to some piece of accountability for the consulting organization, right? And look, there's exceptions to this as well, right? If a consultant is there to be a coach and a mentor, right, an advisor, that's all.
Yep.
Then I think that's good, right? I think for executives who don't have it, to look for experience outside, right, to have it if they're not getting it from their board of directors to bring a consultancy in. But still, right, the arrangement should be such that it's like a subscription arrangement, right? So it's a flat fee per month, and you get you can limit the hours, right, up to this many hours or something. But the whole idea that somehow the effort, as opposed to, because then what you're really paying for is you're paying for knowledge, you're paying for right,
yeah,
for guidance, right? And then so, but even when you go see a psychologist nowadays, right, it's a flat fee. They don't charge by the minute or by the hour. It's a flat fee, right?
Yep.
This is what a session costs, and it could be 40 minutes or it could be 2 hours, but this is what it costs. And we all should be looking at that relationship as, if we don't understand the value proposition of it, we should get comfortable with that the value is the knowledge and the experience that a consultant can bring, right, from their past endeavors that can help you get somewhere faster, right?
Yeah.
More efficiently.
That's a key one there about faster. When you are rewarded on time and materials, there's no incentive to do it faster.
No, there's not. In fact, every incentive to be opposite, right?
Yeah.
So I told you a little story before that I always love to tell people.
Yep.
That I had a client and she called me up and she wanted me to do something, and she asked, "What's your rate?" And I told her I don't have a rate, but this project seems like $1,200. And she said, "Well, what if you do it in an hour?" And I said, "Well, then it'll be $1,500."
Yeah.
And she just laughed, but she got it. All of a sudden, I'm like, you want the answer to this question, and the faster that you get it, the sooner you can move on.
Yeah, and more utilization. Yeah.
So I won't charge you the extra $300 if it only takes an hour. I'll give it to you for the flat rate.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the way that the world and business sees effort as value, right? And it comes down to this. It's the same thing when we go down into the organization and we start looking at production lines, right? That everybody on the line is getting paid by the hour, right? And their role is to do what they're told. They're not supposed to solve problems.
Yep. No thinking.
Right? Because they're getting paid by the hour to do what it is. The supervisor, however, right? That's a salaried person, supervisor, manager, and that person is there to solve problems, to make sure that all of the people on the line can do what they're supposed to do at the rate they're supposed to do it, right?
Yep.
There's no problems with the machinery. There's no problems with the organization. There's no problems with the workflow, the scheduling. Like, that's why you have management. Yep. They're accountable for that.
Yeah, that's a good one there. Yeah, I like that. That's helping with when you're talking about organization design and organization structure, and having your roles and responsibilities and span of control, and how much autonomy, low decision making versus complex decision making Do you need to have more managers, or they have the autonomy to work because they're experienced, and because of that experience is going to cost you? And they said, well, I don't want to pay for it. Then so okay, you're going to get limited skill set. They're going to need more of these people, and that's really the when you're talking in organization design. If you want to have, and then we're going to use the comparison with consulting businesses who, their model is billable hours, and they have, which I'm not sure where I originally saw this, about the finders, minders, and grinders model. And the finder, he's the one that he goes around the business and looks for work. The minders, they mind the grinders. The grinders do the work. They're the specialists. They're almost the experts. That they can do only one thing. They might be good at process mapping, or some particular part of their project life cycle, but they can only do that one thing. You take them out of that, they're like fish out of water. They're useless. Right. And then so then you get the minders who mind the grinders, and then the finders, their role is to go and find the work. Now, and you got a special kind of finder, the faceman finder, and their role is to go around. Actually, they turn up on the end of the project. They change one word in the presentation, change one word, take all the credit for the work.
As long as they're bringing it and I don't have to chase the money, I don't mind that so much.
Yeah. So that model there of the organization design is that that's bottom heavy, and that's where it's going to be there in terms of billable hours. Those are the guys that are really clocking out the hours. Yeah. But
and then right. So really what we have is a problem with education on the purchaser side, right? I mean, these organizations are just responding, right? The big four and others, they're just responding to what the world is sort of asking for. And again, it comes back to the idea that in the world, the only organizations that hire we consultants are dysfunctional. Yes. If they were functional organizations, they would be able to make decisions on their own. So because of that, right, they're asking for someone to come take accountability away from them, to diffuse their accountability.
Yeah.
And in that process, they're perfectly willing to pay for effort, because they're not really looking to solve the problem, because they're not accountable for it at the end of the day, right?
They're going to blame just someone else.
To kick the can down the road, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I wish like hell that our pal Trump didn't ruin this expression for us, but good consultants, our job is to drain the swamp and expose the rocks, expose the problems, right?
Oh yes, that is a good one. Like I've on a recent project on a quite a big one. Was there going to be a very big organization transformation, and they had just prior to running this project had just sacked a third of the organization. And so I'm coming up with the business and with the project guys, the future operating model. And that part of that model includes building back the staff that they got rid of. And they were saying, hey, you can't do that. And I said, why not? I said, they just got rid of a third of the staff. And I said, okay, we had a vision, our why, and it said they wanted to do this, and said, they need to build the capability and the capacity, and they currently don't have it on the, and I said, but you can't talk about that because they just let go a third of the staff. I said, I know these conversations are going to be difficult, but they need to be said. If we don't say it, no one's going to say that. It's going to be the classic consultant model of, well, it worked when we gave it to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just fine. We put it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So technology is the same, right, as consultants, right? It is a great scapegoat. It is a great. So if we have these organizations, right, where you have diffused accountability, there's a whole bunch of people that hide in these organizations.
Right? Oh, yes. Yeah.
And one of the best things to hide behind is technology, right? I mean, you can get dogmatic about process and do it, and you have to have your TRP report with the facts cover sheet and all that, right? But the technology one, my systems can't do it, or there's no way that that we can get that report or that data because our technology systems doesn't. That's not real, right? I mean, the stuff that we're doing right now, there's no new magic, right? Even in the AI world, right? we're asking the same questions that we've always asked. How do we get more business, right? How do I get more profit? How do I become more efficient? The same questions, right? People used to do this on paper all the time. So the only thing that the technology does, if it's designed correctly, is make this stuff happen faster and make it so we can do it with less people.
Yeah.
Right. So if you think about that motivation, one of the big problems is that everybody knows that if the technology gets good and works, maybe they don't have a job.
Yes, that's it.
So these projects start out with all these blockers from the get-go. And if you're not addressing that up front, if you're not taking the why down into the organization, and again, having these hard conversations. I mean, you're talking about it. The one that I always am amazed at is that as a consultant, when you come in and you say, hey, you've got 3 too many people on staff, you need to do a riff or go find more sales. If you go find more sales, we can keep it, but you need to do a riff. And you'll typically see middle managers shirk at the responsibility of deciding who they should riff. And they'll say, well, we'll let atrophy do it. We'll let attrition do it. And you're like, hey, you're going to lose your best people. That's who's going to go. Right? Because they can't. You're going to lose your best people. That's who's going to go first. So don't do that. Incentivize them to stay and get rid of the fluff. But those are hard conversations, right? And in today's world of diffused accountability, gosh, I mean, having those conversations, it's taboo.
Oh, yes. Right? Taboo,
so,
right?
Yeah, we got to fix that.
That's it. That's a real good one. Those conversations. I think probably to my detriment, not too many times, but at least twice, that I have said, politically correctly, but what they needed to hear, that ended up resulting in the end of the program, because that would have been the what do you call it, the spoke in the forks. Okay, this really is the telling factor that this thing should not go ahead. And had I been of a different moral and ethical dilemma, then would have allowed the thing to carry on and happy days. But those conversations, those are necessary. But it's I think that's partly also when I talk about the skill of the business transformator is, they say, oh, business designs and org designs. And there's what you're talking about, the structural technical changes, right? There are people, process, technology, and data. So you were talking about really the process, technology, and data, the technical hard stuff. This people stuff here, you seem to be dismissive of it, or you think about it last, and like that one there, okay, natural attrition, like this other client. So we let go of a third of the staff, and so we're doing all this the discovery work, and say, and even the people who are there, and there's a few of them that they're quite senior, well experienced, have this built-in tacit knowledge over many, many years, and so, we used to have these good guys. And I was like, they're looking in the sky as if, they're good guys. And I said, what happened to them? Well, they left. And I said, we let them go. They had been here too long. That was the payout for the pension is going to be huge. So we had to and now they're going, we're struggling like everything now. And they were trying to get them back. So they're not coming back, man. And so
and look, that middle manager that made those decisions, whether it was through absolution or they just sort of absolve themselves of it and let it happen, or like those people have lost sight of the why. To bring it back around, right? They've lost sight of the why, right? Which is, when you have somebody who comes to work to get a paycheck, right? We have to understand that that's real, but those aren't the people we want for managers, for supervisors. We want people who understand the why.
Yep. Yeah, with this another client there, and you talked about the RFP earlier. On the first thing they did on this project went straight to RFP. So before discovery, said, we know what we want. Said, okay. And so off they go to RFP, and then I said, no, okay, there's a process to this, and one of the first things we're going to do is the vision. And they say, and then so PMO decide they're going to create the vision for the business. And said, and they say, okay, so the education process, right? And it's like, no, we create the vision, we're going to create it collaboratively, co-create with the business themselves. And then they go, oh, no, we know what it is. I said, I'll tell you what, if you do that, you're not going to bring them along the journey with you. And I think from what I've learned so far, that you talk about your successes because of your people. If you don't bring your people along with you right now, you're going to lose them. And so that's what you said. Is like, yeah, you're going to lose the good ones, the ones you don't want to lose.
That's right.
Yeah. So we'll carry it. So for the audience's perspective, Jim is on the other side and another continent. This is, and I'm in the UK here. And so, I get a lot of emails and messages, and you see the comments on YouTube that say, oh, but this is different for the US, or it's in the US. And you say, well, no, it's not. This is a symptom of management, of organization design, of transformations that they are, if you keep, but I sometimes pick on technology about, technology will come in with their technology lens on and everything. They'll look at every problem and go, yeah, it's a technology problem. It's therefore needs to be solved with technology. You say, well, no. So it's like, okay, here's a problem here that we have, that accountability seems to be an issue. We're trying to solve it by bringing in consultants, not building internal capability or capacity, throwing more money and people at the problem, and we're still getting the same result. If you continue doing the same thing again and again, expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity.
Yeah. What was her name that said that? Sarah is attributed with it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's no longer considered insanity when it is at an organizational level, and including our own governments, right? Who are continually, like, they do it all the time. I mean, you think about how they responded to the things here. So the problem, like this philosophical problem, is endemic in the world today, right? There's very few places where accountability for your own way in the world is taken seriously.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where I come back to this idea of organizational healer, is that, that's sort of living that way in the world is a goal of mine. And I help, as I'm having conversations inside of the organization, I start to realize that I'm having the same conversations that I have with myself and others about how to live.
Yeah.
It's not a lot different, right? It's about being responsible and being willing to accept the consequences for the things that you take on responsibility for, right? Is how you create good decision makers. Because a bad decision is inevitable.
Yep.
We make them every day, right? But willing to be accountable, to take on the consequences of that decision and either rectify it or live with it. That's the accountability that we're looking for inside the organization. And that's sort of where I came up with this organizational healer title.
All righty. We're going to, so I like it. So you are essentially treating, and which I talk about, people are naturally change adverse as an individual. When you put individuals together collectively, particularly in an environment where you have this structure and norms and culture, then when we're trying to change these group of people, you're talking about a different paradigm now. You thought one person trying to change was an issue. How about changing a group of people? And so you're looking at, you see an organization is essentially like a person.
Yeah. I mean, so remember that we humans, right? We have two parts to ourselves, right? We've got this animal part, and then we've got this spiritual part where we sort of think we're gods because we have the capacity to contemplate our own death in
consciousness,
sort of
yep,
proactive way, right? And so, but all we are is an organization of cells, an organization of other organisms, right? All of our microbacteria and all of our cells that are reproducing through mitosis. We're just an organization, and it just gets bigger, right, as we move out. So yes, that's exactly right. Is I think about how one person would behave and sort of think the organization has the capacity to behave in all of those interesting ways as well.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's and this is for the listener's perspective, because you come from a technical background, a technical background, both product design, product development, solution architect. So quite technical, hard structured, to say training and background. And now you're thinking more, I don't know if it's holistic or the when you talked about the people, thought, consciousness, and spiritual side. So more, or now as an organizational healer, not just these people, the process, technology, and data elements of an organization, but the people, their behaviors, their motivations, finding what motivates them, all those different elements about management, leadership, making accountable, responsible. So this is this is a paradigm shift, I think, for a lot of technology guys that would see a solution. They'll go, no, it's, what sort of tech, what was tech stack are we going to have here? What's the latest technology? And you're going, whoa, hold it, guys, hold up here. So this is so for guys in your say genre position that have come from technology, that are now maybe seeing lots of things like you have a long career in turn of the century and technology, and now we're in this space where you are, and going, okay guys, if you want to follow the my route that I'm now facing, because you're gonna, like you've said earlier about a lot of these projects, there's the similar kind of symptoms, similar kind of behavior that's led them to this point, and they're banging on, let's change the technology. You know what? If you do that, it's basically putting a plaster on this problem every single time. And it's going to be 2005, we're going to do it, 2007, 10, 15, 20, 22, 30, 40, same problems. And you're getting incrementally, marginally little improvements, not transformation, but little improvements, maybe a dip here and there, but you're not really learning and growing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then to further exacerbate that problem, the decision now of which technology to use, so if we talk about ERPs, is almost moot, because most of the products out there are working toward ubiquity in terms of the relationship between the customer, the product, the manufacturing, the distribution, and the finance. Like, they can all do it, right? But we're talking about flavor. So we're now really saying, if I'm a food, if I'm in the business of producing food, that somehow there's a huge difference between chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream.
No,
there's not. It's preference, right?
Yep.
There's a huge difference between ice cream and, say, an apple.
Yeah.
But not really if you think about in terms of calories and protein, right?
What do you compare?
Carbs, fats, right? Again, we're just talking about sustenance thing. The technology is becoming the same, where everything can kind of do everything. Yeah. Right. And you don't need technologists anymore. It's all in the cloud. Yeah. Right. All you need to do is have somebody make sure that your network's secure, and that when you're doing things and processing information, it's secure, it's fast, it's redundant. How do we back it up? So the technology piece of it, like being able to hide behind that, is going to go away. Right? I mean, it's already happening. So as a technologist, right, you sort of have to sort of stop and sit back and say, why are these organizations having this problem? It's not because they don't have the right ERP, right? If they can't do MRP, manufacturing resource planning, it's not because they don't have the right ERP system. It's because nobody ever asked the questions to decide how they were going to do MRP, because they could do it on paper. It's just math.
Yep. So no one taught them, or they haven't learned it yet. And that will probably be some consultants that wouldn't want to teach them that.
Well, as long as, and so more than anywhere else, we consultants should start our pitch with my job is to work myself out of a job. Right.
Oh,
My job
yes.
is to help you get to a place where you can do this on your own. And it's not just this thing. Like, you have to realize that it's not just this thing that I have to teach you. But if you're already asking me this question, I know that you're dysfunctional. I need to teach all these people up here how to ask the right questions.
Yeah. Teach to
Make
ask
decisions.
and there what back to the at the top of the hour we talked about was the thing that's lacking is that the ability to make decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, so alrighty. I like what you said there about the my work is to get myself out of this job. That is, your job is to get yourself out of this job. You know, I take that approach too, and I think it's almost for some clients, it's like, did he actually really say that?
Yeah.
So is you sure? So, you know, like I quite like going in and making an impact and seeing how quick I can leave them with the capability and now I can go do something else and go do another one. I really like that. And then I've been back to a couple of clients who called me for a drink and walk into the bar and they come and kiss and hug me and I go, "You guys are right." I said, "Oh, our life is so different now." I was going, "Yeah, that's what I like." And I go, there's one time I did this quite a big program that I had to do the presentation to the sponsor of the approach that was already approved by the program manager and program director. And I had to go to the sponsor, and the sponsor said, for the directors and manager said, "Look, you got to take it to the board now for approval, and we got to get the sponsor signed off." All right, okay. And so I went in there and gave the pitch, and he said, "Okay, Heath, I understand your 6-step process. I understand everything about it, but I want you to start at number 5." And I said, "Okay, you want me to start at the end, basically?" And I said, "So you want me to do exactly what the last 2 guys have done before?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, so if you give me 20 minutes, I'll come back with that." Because I'm going to go get out of the drawer. You know, this is exactly the same thing. I'm going to save you all this time. I'm going to, you know, and you'll give it back to you. And he goes, "Well, no." I says, "Heath, look, there's 53 entities around the business and around the country, and they do the same process 53 different times." And I said, "Great, just give me one. We'll just call that the baseline, and it'll be above their way, the aspiration to where they want to work, and others is going to be best practice, and we're going to call that best practice." And so we end up delivering the project. Took 9 months, and I came back to the board and presented the target operating model, the roadmap, and he goes, "Heath, all minute take it." And 10 minute takers there. So he asked the minute taker, pause the meeting. He said, "I want to make a special mention. I want to get this recorded. Heath, I want to thank you for a job well done. You did what you asked. You gave us the time and the roadmap, but you did the unthinkable." And I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You documented the undocumented business." And I said, "Well, thank you. But I said at the beginning, I had an approach, but I didn't have the knowledge that your people had. You know, your people in the business had the knowledge." And I said, I'll do the approach, but I need the people. And you seconded them to the projects. For that, I thank you." And it was them, your own people, who did this work. It wasn't me. I taught them how to go do it, and they went around the country and did the facilitation. I said, "This is where you've now built the muscle. These guys have got it." And I said, and that's what I said from the beginning, that when I walk away, you guys will have the ability to do it yourself. And he's like, "He's got to be kidding." And I was going, "Yeah." I was going, "No, mate. No." So that you guys, that's, I think, the role, as you said, it's the role of the consultant should be. Bang on. Okay, so Jim, we might wrap it up there. I think, how did we go? We covered our 3 points.
We did.
Okay, I wouldn't want to. So, geez, that's a lot for me to wrap up. I was taking notes the whole time. If you saw, I had my head down. So I'll just quickly, if I can summarize. So we were discussing our 3 points. There being your role and journey from the architect, the process you follow, what's happening in the industry right now. We covered it in bits and pieces, but there's initially it is a bit of a symptom of maybe consultants themselves have not been helpful, that they have created a crutch in companies. Well, in companies themselves have now by default will go look at a problem, treat that problem as the actual problem, but that's the symptom, not asking the questions. You talked about the why being a major priority. It's probably a lack of focus. Everyone's got probably nailed down the what and the how, but taking less time about understanding the why. You talked about everyone in the organization might not agree on the what and the how, but if they don't agree on the why, they shouldn't be there. Yep. Okay, there's so yeah, what do you say? So ask they might have the first thing that you do is you ask about the what, ask them the why, and then ask them about the limitations.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that limitation is the key one. I think that's the one that's probably missing.
Yeah, I think that that's right. That there isn't anybody when you ask that question, you get back dumb like stares.
Yeah. So it's the what do they call it one? The fluoride, the fluoride stare. Yeah. Okay. So you got to ask. I think it's almost like like one of the previous clients would say, I'll pick on safe here for a minute, and they'll go, it's used over there. And it's used over. I say, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So how are we going to use it here? It's like, and so the business will say, but it's used over. I said, yeah, you're not asking the right question. You're stopping with the range of questions you should ask. The first, you say the what do you want to do and why you want to do it, and then what's the limitations of you doing it? Oh, we don't have the budget. You sure you don't have the budget? Let's have a look at it. It's like you've got to ask the right questions. They're not asking the right questions. Yep. Okay. So the largest, the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems in the market right now, and is that money is for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if money being free,
changing, right? I mean, that's changing as we speak.
Yeah.
Right. So interest rates are starting to climb. Inflation is starting to climb. What we will likely see out of that is companies panicking, right? And bringing in Big Four type firms to look for efficiencies.
Yep.
I suspect that's next on the agenda.
And I think what will happen with that is, and I will pick on Big Four here for a second, is that they are good at optimization, but the optimization also comes at a cost. They will optimize to the absolute tilt at a cost of something, and that cost is usually customer experience.
Well, so look, I don't know how much time we have, but this is a huge other point, right? Is that if let's use an automobile as an analogy, right? And I'm making this up off the cuff, so if I mess it up, I apologize. But if we take the automobile, right, and we optimize the transmission, right? We basically make it so that the transmission is so efficient that there's little to no slip, right?
Yep.
And we have a gear ratio in there that's optimized for fuel efficiency, right? So there's little to no slip, and we're thinking about fuel efficiency, right? And then if we haven't also thought about the tires, right, and the engine, we're in big trouble. Because now there's no room for flex. If that engine doesn't have enough horsepower to drive those gears, the transmission is not going to slip and let it. There's no torque converter anymore, right?
Yep.
The tires are shot. All of our efficiency is for naught, right?
Yep.
Because, well, this is the same thing that's true for businesses. If you optimize in the middle, if you optimize manufacturing without considering supply and demand in reality, right?
Yep.
You're lost. Like, you're lost. You can be as efficient as you want in the middle, but if you are not timing that to what the actual demand for your product is, right, on a forecast basis, and then tuning that to what the output and what your capacity is, you're still lost, because now you're efficient here, but there's still going to be waste on these sets.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there is no demand, and you can't you might have the demand, you can't meet the supply, or other way around, you don't have the ability. You're efficient at the front, but you've got no business coming in the front door.
Yeah, so you've got to write a check somewhere. So if you're going to increase efficiency, right, you have to go in with the knowledge and the message that you are either going to increase efficiency in order to increase your sales, your demand, or you're going to rationalize the business somewhere. RIFs, close your plant closures, somewhere, right? If you make this more efficient, you're going to have excess somewhere, and
Yeah.
you've got to get rid of it in order to actually make it, in order to realize your efficiency.
Okay, so the optimization question is, there's going to be some waste at some point in time, so you need to like you said earlier about ask the question early. So these questions are yeah. So then if there's going to be really, it's like that safe example, they say, well, it works. Yeah, we could be smart about that question. How does it work here? So, well, there's going to be inefficiencies. Okay, what sort of inefficiencies? Well, you just optimize the middle. Supply and demand is going to be impacted in some way. If you've got that okay, then you're right. If you think of things in terms of systems, then you might be okay. But don't look at things in isolation.
Yep.
Okay. So we get to the largest of the biggest problem right now was money, but as you said, it's changing. The organizations were buying in, so they're buying in capability, buying in capacity, but that part there about management and accountability is still the big issue. And that's where we got into the conversation about pushing down in the organization accountability, but that's wrong. Should be pushing down responsibility. Accountability, and we talked about that, is and you talk rightly about accountability is with one person, not decision by committee. Committees have a role, so be clear of the role. The role of committee is debate. Yep, not decision making. That's I think the part where organizations get caught up. And that's the accountability part. They want to put one person's head on the block. So no, you put one person's head on the block and you see results.
Yep.
You don't put one person's on. You put everyone's head on the block. No one's head's getting on the block.
That's right.
And then there's the 7%. Yeah. Who was it? That guy. Yeah. That's I've seen that with requirements. And so who's the owner? Well, the group, the Business Design Authority. No, one person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look at that and I go, okay, we're going to get we're going to get our house in order here, and that is one person. Okay. What else we talk about there? Everyone's responsible. No one's accountable. Yes. Okay. Focus on young organizations. They want to focus on, and that's what they do. They bring in externally. They focus on external, environmental, market share, innovation, but the internal side of it, about this accountability side, seems to be missing.
Yep.
Okay. And what do we say? Yeah, the thinking up front, which isn't done. The organizations should focus on the why, not the what nor the how. Yes, put the cart before the horse. Then we discussed about the committee, that committee's role is the role of debate, not decision. Everyone can agree on the why. They may not agree on the what, the how, but everyone needs to agree on the why. We talked about the example there of the iPad, about the consumer. Did they ask the consumer? No, probably not. But what the outcome was that they had an amazing product, because the why was, well, I've now got, from a client's perspective, a consumer, they've got 10,000 songs in their back pocket. From technology, guy goes, we've just put a 10 gig storage in his back pocket.
Right.
Yeah. No interest to there's no interest to the consumer. The industry problems right now was the billable hours model. Yeah, that is not helping. And so from a consultant's perspective, it is that the value proposition is not clearly understood. The client thinks that they want effort, but they want what they actually want is result, and they're willing to pay for effort, because that part there is that part of that confusion around accountability. They're quite happy for the thing to take a long time, because they're not accountable for it.
Right.
So if we get back to the root cause, it's all to do with accountability.
That's the root.
Yep. Okay. And then we talked about, well, really into your part from where you are right now, and looking at people as organizations, like people, they are probably with thoughts and feelings. But yeah, and I use that analogy around people as an individual adverse to change, and they said, well, as a group, good luck with that you've now got these other issues. But you try understand an organization from a systems perspective, from not just which as a solution architect or previous solution architect, the technology and data and also process, but from a human people's perspective, and understanding with technologists that if we technologists continue to want to solve a problem from just treating the symptom of just technology, we'll forever have the same problem. Yeah. And it will just be kicking the can down the road, solving the same problem 2 years later, 5 years, etc., etc. Okay. Geez, we covered a lot of ground there, Jim.
We did.
My man, thank you very much for your time. What's going to happen now is that it's going to go up on all the podcast channels. When it does, I'll let you know on LinkedIn, so you can share it or do whatever you want with it. But there'll be a YouTube video. It'll have you and me side by side. So if you're okay with the makeup today and that you look the part, then it's going to be no issues.
Yeah, no issues.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there has been, unfortunately, I caught a couple of girls out, a couple of ladies that have been on here, and I said, okay, we're recording the video, and oh no, got to pause for the makeup. Yeah. And so we had to reschedule. Yeah, so we're okay. We'll go live on the video as it is.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time, Jim.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, buddy. We'll catch you later. Cheers, buddy. Okay, thank you. Bye.